A couple important words: vibration and ether, and very esoteric concepts were covered in the book. And I want to discuss these because I feel that they're really important, because it wasn't until later stages, I would say about 3-4 years ago, where I really started to work with and understand these principles. And really, it wasn't until last year where I started to take this even to a higher level, and then really the last few months where this information really came to life, and it's really the information that I live by to a large degree. Now, there's a lot of different concepts and a lot of different information out there from various sources that talk about the same concept. But what I want to share with you is my own personal experiences with working with the so-called vibration and ether, this metaphysical esoteric concept. And we're going to discuss it based on quotes that I pulled from the book. And I believe these are from the original manuscript. And forgive me if I'm wrong, but let's get into discussion. The ether in which this little earth revolves, in which we move and have our being, is a form of energy moving at an unconceivably high rate of vibration, and that the ether is filled with a form of universal power which adapts itself to the nature or the thoughts we hold in our minds, and influences in natural ways to transmute our thoughts into their physical equivalent. So what's interesting is that when we go about our days, we usually sense these vibrations, okay? Vibrations that are in alignment with who we are, and a vibration when we're not in alignment with who we are or what we're looking for. Now, when you are in a room and somebody enters the room and you feel really good as a result of that person entering the room, then that person carries with them, or is said to have carried with them, a certain frequency, a certain vibration that you now pick up, and that's a desired vibrational state that you want to acquire. So if a person were to come into the room and it was in a lower vibration or a darker vibration or a vibration that is not in alignment with a desired state that you wish to acquire, then that's going to be felt as well. You might feel throttled, you might feel confused, you might feel disempowered, you might feel fear, or any of the negative emotions that were discussed in Think and Grow Rich. Why is this so? Why does this happen to be the way that it is? Well, we live in a vibration universe. There's very, very different models for looking at reality, and one of the models is the energetic model, seeing everything as energy, and getting really in touch with who you are and how you feel about everything you involve yourself with. Now, when I first came across this concept, it didn't really make much sense to me because I was so used to looking at reality from the concrete sense. Concrete sense, in the sense that I look at logic, reason, and so forth before making decisions. And while that is very important and very true, a lot of times you'll find yourself getting certain kinds of hunches or inspirations or feelings, specifically vibrational feelings, that might be contrarian to some logic and reason. And then if you go down that direction of that feeling, you might find that you'll actually produce a higher level of result, or you'll get to the destination that you wanted in a different alternative path that wasn't mapped out, or maybe could not even be mapped out, but because you followed your heart, so to speak, or the vibration, you were able to get there in a more efficient, effective way. Now, I've been playing around with this, and I find this to be true for myself. And thus, according to what he says in the book, this ether, or this energy that is connected to everyone and everything, has different vibrations, have different frequencies. And these vibrations represent different kinds of life experiences. And certain vibrations attract certain other elements that are associated with the vibration. So this is where I believe they get the word success consciousness from. So success consciousness can be seen as a vibration. And then if you're in this vibrational state of success consciousness, what you'll find is that you'll carry yourself a certain way, but you will also attract those that are in that vibration because maybe they feel good when they're around you. And it even goes deeper. Okay, so let's go into another quote here. Faith is the head chemist of the mind. When faith is blended with the vibration of thought, the subconscious mind instantly picks up the vibration, translates it into its spiritual equivalent, and transmits it to infinite intelligence, as in the case of prayer. So vibration of faith, when mixed with thought, is picked up by the subconscious mind, and this is where it gets very esoteric, is sent to the infinite intelligence, and thus from that place we're able to attract others, situations, circumstances, as infinite intelligence is said to be connected with the subconscious mind of everybody else. Now, is this really true? Well, from personal experiences, I found that I resonate with this because if I would think about somebody and I would be thinking about that person based on a certain common vibrational theme that we share, maybe it's a business context, I'll usually find that person contacting me at some point. And if this formula is true, then faith, which is focusing on the vision and goals in the same context in which this other individual shares the same faith in relation to their goals and aspirations, is actually sending some information over to infinite intelligence, and the communication is being bridged between myself and the other individual. The emotions of faith, love, and sex are the most powerful of all major positive emotions. When the three are blended, they have the effect of coloring vibrations of thought in such a way that it instantly reaches the subconscious mind, where it is changed into its spiritual equivalent, the only form that induces a response from infinite intelligence. So infinite intelligence is said to be the all-knowing, all-everything source of hunches, inspirations, insights, and anything that is possible to be created in physical reality exists already in the infinite intelligence. The infinite intelligence has the understanding of how to express itself, and we connect to infinite intelligence to get hunches, inspirations, creativity, to make things in physical reality. So it is said that when an idea is had by an individual, and it's a creative idea, that there are many other individuals, maybe not many, but there are other individuals who are also getting that idea. It might be a unique idea, but halfway across the world or across the world, another individual might be getting that same idea. Where does it come from? It is said that this is where it comes from, infinite intelligence. And connecting to infinite intelligence requires an individual to raise their vibrational frequency. So how would you raise your vibration? Well, there are positive emotions and there are negative emotions. When you become really present and aware to the positive emotions and the positive belief systems, and removing yourself away from the negative emotions covered in Think and Grow Rich, like fear, greed, envy, jealousy, anger, stuff like that. You actually raise, when you avoid those negative emotions, put yourself in a more positive emotional state. And if you keep raising up this positive emotional state through repetition, you'll find yourself having more insights and empowered ways of thinking, and you'll be able to see obstacles as opportunities. This is said to be a net result of raising a vibration or raising your vibration. And when your vibration raises enough, then you can communicate with infinite intelligence, and infinite intelligence can communicate with you. Now, I've had a lot of experiences in my business life where it seemed almost impossible that the dots would connect. But some way, somehow, things happen that just seem too specific and too almost planned in a way to seem like it was coincidence, like it was meant to be. Now, we've all had these experiences in our lives, and we have to ask ourselves, if we've had these experiences, what were we doing? How did we generate these experiences? A lot of times we'll find that we were in an elevated state of mind. We were in this state of mind where we felt really good, we felt really empowered. Essentially, our vibration was higher. And as a result of that, we were able to attract certain opportunities, situations, people to aid us in achieving what it is that we desired to achieve. Faith is the element which transforms the ordinary vibration of thought created by the finite mind of man into the spiritual equivalent. Faith. Faith is that of a high vibration. It is absolute conviction and belief, and it is a reflection of somebody's self-confidence that they can create the reality that they want. And it is faith that is said to speak with and connect with infinite intelligence, this vibrational frequency of faith. If you do not have faith, then you don't have the vibrational frequency to connect with infinite intelligence, according to this book. Now, the thing about this is that faith, for maybe a lot of people, can be difficult. But they need to look at certain situations in their lives where they exercise faith, where it almost seemed like an impossibility to create whatever they were trying to create at the time, where they exercise faith. And during those times, they were able to figure out a way to actually make the result happen by utilizing faith. So you could say that at that point, they were in a higher vibration. By exercising faith, they were able to communicate with infinite intelligence, and infinite intelligence would be able to bring to them the people, the circumstances, the opportunities that may have already been there in their awareness. They just didn't recognize it before. Because at a different vibration, things look different. In a different vibration, in a higher vibration, what looks like an obstacle to somebody in a lower vibration is an opportunity to somebody in a higher vibration. There is a lot more abundance, and there's a lot more opportunities in a higher vibration. Faith is the element in which transforms the ordinary vibration of thought. Okay, so whatever thoughts you have, having faith transforms it into a higher level to connect over with infinite intelligence. Thoughts that are mixed with any of the feelings of emotions constitute a magnetic force that attracts from the vibrations of the ether other similar or related thoughts. So notice this for a second. I've gone and done a lot of work in this where I've placed myself in isolation, and I just kept lifting up my thoughts. Different thoughts would come into my mind, and I would reframe, and I would reprogram, I would recondition to observe that thought. If it seemed of a disempowering or negative emotion based nature, I would reframe that to a positive thought, or you can say a positive vibration, and I just kept doing that over and over again. And what I noticed then is that I was getting thoughts that I never even pondered upon before. I never even really thought of before. There's actually a bunch of information that I share on my channel in my videos that come as a result of doing this process, okay? Going into isolation, having thoughts, and then observing if the thoughts of a positive nature or negative nature, and rewriting the meaning of the negative thoughts if they are into a positive nature, while embracing positive thoughts only to find new connects, new insights, new perspectives from a higher, more positive thoughts that actually keeps amplifying higher and higher and higher. And what was interesting is that when I put myself in that space, the contrast towards lower vibrations or negative vibrations when I'm around people or different environments was very significant. So there are a lot of situations right now where people I know, and I find myself in those situations and they're in the situation, and I might see the situation as a negative or in a lower vibration, and they might not even see it. And if I were to bring it up and say, this is not that good of a vibration, they wouldn't even notice it, they wouldn't pick up on it. That's because a lot of times they have not tuned themselves. They haven't been exercising the contrast, the wide array of spectrum of vibrations that we can particularly encounter, you could say. Vibrations that we can encounter. So now what happens is that if we actually keep ourselves in a positive vibrational state more often, we become more sensitive to negative vibrations. And the more we practice personal development and responsibility and implementing the principles in Think and Grow Rich, the higher we raise our vibration, and the higher we raise our vibration, the more we attract the thoughts, systems, circumstances, whatever is needed, the resources to make our dreams come true. And this is actually why Napoleon Hill said that in order to really understand this piece, the very esoteric piece from Think and Grow Rich, calls it the secret, one actually has to follow the principles. Well, there's many reasons why, but one of the fundamental reasons why I believe is that by following the principles, you actually embrace more positive thoughts, more positive ideas. You occupy your mind with positivity, and you don't allow your mind to drift. And as a result of that, your vibration goes up. More success happens, and you experience the contrast even more. Situations that used to seem positive before now seem negative to you. And I've known this to be true. And so I actually find myself moving out of environments and situations really quick now as soon as I feel a little bit of negativity, or the vibration has dropped, or the vibration is no longer to the same standard as to what I will accept. And then when I move into whatever else by letting go of that negative situation, environment, and so forth, it tends to be of a more positive outcome-based reality that I experience. So that's how I navigate this so-called vibration. Again, it's a very metaphysical, esoteric concept. And it's metaphysical in the sense that it's not physical, right? Like you can't quantify this physically. Maybe there's some science or whatnot. I'm not familiar with that area that might be able to quantify this, or that does exist. I haven't gone that much into deep study, and that's why I'm making this introductory video, which is a soliloquy just of my thoughts. It's not designed or not supposed to be the absolute knowledge of how this stuff works, and it's really just based on my own personal experience and how I navigate reality and the positive success that I've had as a result of using this vibrational concept from Think and Grow Rich. But I do know is that if I keep myself in a positive state, I observe if I find negative energy around me and I remove myself from there. Wherever I go from there into a more positive space, because I'll pick a more positive space from there, whether it be a person, situation, circumstance, event, whatever, I will attract more of the result. I'll be able to see and feel better. Okay? See better in the sense that I'll see opportunities rather than obstacles, and it goes higher and higher and higher. The ether is a great cosmic mass of eternal forces of vibration. It is made up of both destructive vibrations and constructive vibration. It carries at all times vibrations of fear, poverty, disease, failure, misery, and vibrations of prosperity, health, success, happiness, just as surely as it carries the sound of hundreds of orchestrations of music and hundreds of human voices, all of which maintain their own individuality and means of identification through the medium of radio. So the way I interpret this is that the reality we live in consists of an infinite amount of different frequencies, and everybody operates in different frequencies, and they're not always staying in that certain frequency because they attract and they experience life through a broad spectrum of frequencies every day. But some individuals have maintained an ability, and I have done that for myself, to keep themselves in a certain state of mind for an extended period of time. And that state of mind is really the mind state, or the vibration, that's required them to carry out the events, situations, and experiences, learnings, knowledge, and doing of whatever it is that they want to create the reality that they want. And for me, a lot of you who watch my videos share that certain vibrational frequency that I keep myself in. And thus that vibrational frequency is communicated through words in the videos and so forth. And if it resonates with you, you want to be there. Now, you want to be there because, concretely speaking, that's the vibration of the entrepreneur. That's the vibration of being able to implement the principles and philosophies and teachings that are discussed on the channel through the books. And you want to be able to do that with consistency, because that's the success consciousness. And it's a success consciousness that I found to a certain degree, because I believe that as I go through this journey, I refine that vibration to an even higher level. And the vibration goes to a certain level, and I don't necessarily see it as high, low, totally, but it goes into a specific frequency that attracts its equivalent that exists in that frequency. So, for example, $100,000 or $1 million or a Ferrari or the perfect relationship exists in a certain frequency. We tune ourselves into that frequency. We learn where it is, and this is through experience and intuition and judging what we do and how we do and the places we do it, and watching the stimulus that is a net result of different experiences we have and how we feel about it, and make decisions and adjust until we find a sweet spot where we remain in that state for an extended period of time. And what we'll notice is that our actions, our thoughts, our behaviors tend to flow in that area, and it attracts whatever it is in that frequency that exists in that frequency. And we actually attract it a lot easier because we remain in that frequency for an extended period of time. Obviously, that takes discipline. Obviously, that takes focus. And obviously, that takes a good grasp of the principles covered within Think and Grow Rich. And that's why he had also, I believe, mentioned that to be the case. That stated, it is said that the individuals that were able to attract a large amount of success who were included in the book were individuals that discovered that this vibration frequency principle exists, and they were able to tune themselves through various things and disciplines and just being and selecting their environment and being very aware of where their attention goes to that certain frequency that attracted the success that they want with consistency. We are what we are because of the vibrations of thought which we pick up and register through the stimuli of our daily environment. This is very important. If you want to have success consciousness, if you recognize that, hey, successful people do this, they talk a certain way, they act a certain way, they carry themselves a certain way, and you do some of those things and you place yourself in environments that facilitate those behaviors, then you are moving into that frequency, and that's becoming, you can say, your default frequency. Then, and if you don't actually maintain that, because this environment that we live in, the world we live in, is very diverse with different frequencies and different vibrations. We go about doing our daily activities. Let's say you go to a store or you drive down the street, you'll encounter people from different vibrations. If you allow those people who are in different vibrations to stimulate you with their vibration, you will move into their vibration, and perhaps it might not be in alignment with the vibration that you want to maintain to achieve the results that you want. That's why it's very important to look at our environment and people around us and recognize that we're being influenced at an energetic level, at a vibrational level by these individuals. And based on that, we have to make decisions as to where our attention, where our awareness, and where our time and resources are dedicated. Now, this doesn't mean that you avoid people, because remember, the idea behind this is to recognize that throughout a day, all human beings fluctuate in frequencies. Maybe there's some that stay in a certain frequency and it's a high success conscious, very abundant conscious or whatnot. And they stay in that frequency, but most people fluctuate from positive to negative, and some go even on a roller coaster. They can be really positive and really high vibration in 1 minute, and the next minute they will be very manic and depressed and so forth, and that does happen. But we want to be a source of inspiration to others. We want to uplift others to a higher vibration, to a more positive frequency, because from that place they can live a better life. And this is not done by avoiding people in the total degree, but by having compassion and respect towards people. That right there is of a higher frequency and will allow you to maintain your higher frequency. In the 48 Laws of Power, there's a law that says avoid the unhappy and the unlucky. And so in that law, it's essentially, you could say, related to the vibration that unhappy and unlucky people tend to attract because they're in that vibration, unhappy and unlucky circumstances and situations. And it's stated that if you were to mix with them, that you're putting yourself in a place where you will attract that also. And that vibe that's around them attracts that kind of stuff. Now, this is true, but again, we want to be respectful towards people. But we also want to recognize that we want to look at how much time we can invest and where our attention goes every day. And if we want to create the results that we want, we have to place ourselves in a predominantly resonant vibration that is going to attract the results that we want. Now, what's interesting is that a lot of success comes from helping other people. So in order to help other people, you have to in some way go into their vibration. But you have to do it in a way where it doesn't throw you off course totally and wipe you out so that you don't end up becoming successful or you don't end up helping them really. There's a concept in neurolinguistic programming called frame control. And frame control essentially is a vibrational concept at a deeper level. At least that's the way I look at it. And the idea behind it is that whoever believes reality to work a certain way actually dictates reality, actually creates reality for others. You take a person and you put them in the room and they really are adamant and they believe, not from a controlling perspective, but from a charismatic perspective, which is a combination of power, presence, and warmth, which I discussed in The Charisma Myth by Olivia Fox Cobain. A person that carries that in a room and sits there and is just there in the room is able to transform that room over to that frequency, the people in the room in the frequency. If that person leaves the room, then whoever has the dominant frame that governs the room after they leave will have the consensus or the control of that particular reality. Now, this is not absolute, and this goes very deep, but that also can be looked at it from the perspective of vibration. So that being said, there are some individuals who are in a negative vibration or lower vibration, and they're very adamant about their lower vibration. And if you find yourself in a situation around them, and they're more adamant about the reality being the way it is from a vibrational stance, then you're going to find yourself being stifled and uncomfortable around them. And if you remain there, you might actually start to adopt that energetic and vibration. And you'll actually find that you'll start thinking negatively and maybe even speaking negatively. I'm sure you've experienced this. Think of certain people that you hang around with, that when you hang around with them, all of a sudden you start talking negatively or thinking negatively. And think of people that when you're around, it makes you think and transact and act from a more empowering standpoint. Okay, that's an example of this. The emotion of love in the human heart and brain creates a favorable field of magnetic attraction which causes an influx of the higher and finer vibrations which are afloat in the ether. So the higher and finer vibrations are said to have carried the joy, the happiness, the abundance, the ability to create in your reality things, manifest faster. And it is driven by love. Okay, love. And this is why all the older spiritual leaders who are no longer with us, even the ones that exist today, talk about unconditional love, okay, really developing unconditional love. Unconditional love prevents you from dropping into a lower frequency. If a person has full unconditional love, they would be a very enlightened being. So I don't know if there's anybody that exists on our planet today that is 100% unconditional love. Because maybe if they were 100% unconditional love, then even in the most torturous and extreme situations, they would maintain that level of stoicism of holding on to that vibration of unconditional love, even if they're being persecuted and so forth. But there are some individuals that can handle it really well in really tough situations. Those individuals are said to be resonating more and for a closer to that unconditional love and are more home in that range of frequency, because it's not necessarily always an absolute number frequency, but within a range of frequency. So our goal is to evolve to have unconditional love and to have faith in what it is that we desire. And when you have unconditional love, what it is that you desire is always to the well-being of others as it is to yourself. And this is purification of your thoughts and improving and amplifying the quality of your character. It is through this faculty that thought vibrations from the minds of others are received. It is through this faculty that one individual may tune in or communicate with the subconscious minds of other men. It's a quote from the book, and a very powerful quote. And we talked about this earlier, that it is very much true, very much possible. I've attracted a lot of clients and people that I'm involved with that I used to read about back in the days. And by reading and studying someone's work, you essentially learn about the frequency that they exist. And the more you implement and adopt and really integrate, eventually you might find yourself around that person or working with that person. Now I want you to think about this for a moment, because in the book, they talk about the man who thought his way into partnership with Edison. Okay, think about this for a moment. Really think about it. Thought his way into partnership with Edison. Heard about him, studied him, and really figured out the frequency, and then attracted the opportunity to work for Edison and eventually became a partner with Edison. Henry Ford whipped poverty, illiteracy, and ignorance by allying himself with great minds, whose vibrations of thoughts he absorbed into his own mind. Very interesting. You know, I've heard this many times, and I'm sure you have as well. You are the sum of the 5 people that you surround yourself with. Thoughts, ideas, and vibrations are going and getting picked up in your subconscious mind and altering your vibration. And from that space, you start to attract what they attract. This is actually one of my secrets for producing results, is I evaluate and evaluated, and I still do to this day, who I'm around. And I have to recognize that their vibrations are being picked up by me. And I'm going to be a sum of them and the other individuals that I associate with. So knowing this, I make sure I surround myself and associate myself with people that are in the success range or frequency that I acquire to the next level, while I also recognize, we mentioned this earlier, that our job is to help people, grow people, because that's how you create value. That you might find yourself around people who aren't necessarily in the reality that you choose to be in, but you learn, you train, you grow, and you encourage and you uplift them bit by bit, while making sure within yourself that you're not absorbing the essence of the frequency that they're in that keeps them where they are, but your goal is to raise their frequency up. Now, raising their frequency up is actually one of the most masterful things that I found to be true when I coach and I consult with clients. I find that to be more powerful than telling them what to do. Focusing on raising the vibe and the frequency, which is something that you learn how to do once you acquired a certain level of expertise with working with the vibrations. And then you focus more on the energy of the conversation rather than telling the person what to do. And I believe this is what was the core principle, one of the core principles behind the Taoist principle of action through inaction. So Wei Wu Wei, which essentially means action through inaction, is the ability through, without taking action, create results, but done at an energetic level. Again, this is not really common knowledge, it's very rare knowledge, but this ability does exist. Think about it from your own personal experience. If a person is of a high success status and has a very powerful frame that's of a positive nature and very charismatic, sits in a meeting room where people are usually very confused, disempowered, negative thinking, and so forth occurs. That person who's at the higher state, higher vibration, stays in the room and maintains the harmony of that frame and that vibration in the room, you watch the people around them start to change. They start to look at reality different, little by little by little. But the other person cannot get reactive to the lower vibration. The individual with the higher vibration has to hold that energy, has to sense, has to have a high level of awareness that they're holding that vibration and holding that space for the other person, for the group. Again, you learn how to do this after experience of really using the principles covered in Think and Grow Rich, and I can say this from my own personal experience. But then what happens is that the others are able to articulate and figure out the solutions to the problem without actually telling them. I'm sure you've had experiences like this. Think about this with maybe in the companies you work for, if a high-level executive came in the room, or people that you know. So in the last, as we conclude this discussion, I want to emphasize this very important point from the book. So it's a better definition of a genius is a man who has discovered how to increase the vibrations of thought to the point where he can freely communicate with sources of knowledge not available through the ordinary rate of vibration of thought. So raising the vibration and learning how to do this gets you to a place where you have access to knowledge and certain informations. Now, the yogis talk about this, a lot of spiritual leaders talk about this, and a lot of successful people, entrepreneurs, artists, musicians, and so forth, who achieve a high level, talk about this, putting themselves in a certain level where they feel that there's certain information being transferred from them. This is said to be coming from the infinite intelligence, and they can only access that information when they raise their vibration. Now, I find this personally to be true because as I recognized that it was important for me to put out more and more valuable content and really understanding this particular principle in the book, I recognized that I got to be really cautious and aware as to the kind of vibrations that I'm exposing myself to. And my goal is to raise myself up, and I do this through various things that I do, to a point where I get access to insights and perspectives and information that dimensionalizes and actually can be turned into lectures and discussions that I could share with others that creates behavioral change in them, positive behavioral change in them. And if I don't do that, then I'm just essentially copying information of what I learned. Now, while there's familiarity and there's a lot of similarness to the things that I talked about, there's also pieces on how I connect the dots together that is a net result of having the ability that is generated from raising the vibration up to a certain point and simplifying. Okay, so think about this for a moment. Simplifying complex information in a way that produces behavioral change in the person that you're communicating to lift them up at an energetic level, is the simplifying is found through higher vibrations. Complexity a lot of times is driven by lower vibrations and the elements that make it so, such as the negative emotions. A lot of times we complicate things because of fear, lower vibration. A lot of times we complicate our lives by anger, jealousy, greed, and so forth. Really think about this for a moment. Because as we're having this conversation and we're talking about vibrations, I actually have to elevate my thinking to be able to articulate this, because this is not a script that I'm following. I pulled a handful of quotes from the book, and I'm able to just riff and communicate and sequence and connect everything together because I've elevated my thoughts to a level where I gain clarity, and from that clarity I can communicate in a way that may sound very artful and eloquent, but it's specific to the outcome that you desire to acquire from this information. I do that with all my videos. So I hope you enjoyed this discussion. I'm not formally releasing this audio, and I'm probably not going to put it on my channel, but it is really just some brain thoughts and some just ideas that I had about this concept that I learned after really digging deeper into the book. And, I really do believe that Napoleon Hill was onto something when he created this book on how he presented this information. You see, I mentioned this in the videos that I did. When you take a book like Think and Grow Rich and you implement the concepts learned in the book with diligence, you go back and read the book, new information pops out, information that wasn't there in your awareness before. You didn't put the awareness on, now becomes more apparent. And then if you keep doing that with repetition, this vibrational information, the information about vibration tends to stand out even more. And so now, actually, what's true in the reality that I live in right now is that I tend to navigate most of my decisions and what I do based on vibrations. And, you know, I have a lot of people that want to do stuff with me, and I can read their vibrations really well. And even if they put together something really eloquent and well put together, I can sense just from the development of this, and that's what he was talking about when he was talking about sixth sense in the book, if that person is worth doing a business deal with or entering a relationship with, dating, contacts. I use this for a lot of different things. And it's not to categorize people as good or bad, because that's not what I do. And that's not what the book recommends that you do. It's to just understand at a fundamental level that there are all spectrums of vibrations that exist in reality, and people carry with them different rates of vibration. And they're in the vibrational frequency for whatever reason. We don't know. They might want to be there, they might want to learn from that experience and so forth. And it is not our role and responsibility to look down upon them and so forth, but to inspire, to uplift, and to raise in a higher vibration through action and being. And if they choose to jump into that vibrational frequency, then that's the choice that they have. This allows you to have more compassion and be more accepting of others and have a deeper level of growth into that space we were talking about earlier, which is unconditional love, which is probably the highest vibration that a person can go to, and it's a vibration that will allow you to create the most happiness in everything in your life and to attract other individuals who also share that with you and life experiences that are in the same frequency of that level of vibration.